guaranteed. Sears.
Speaking on his weekly radio show, Donovan McNabb admitted to feeling disrespected by the way he was benched by Coach Mike Shanahan.
Everything was handled awkwardly, somewhat to a disrespect to me. All the leaks and everything, and no putting out the fire, so to speak.
His agent, Fletcher Smith, added this element to the very combustible equation. I believe there is tension between Donovan and Kyle that's rooted in the fact that Donovan has suggested modifications to Kyle's offense based on intricacies Donovan has learned in his NFL career. Ironically, Kyle decided to employ Donovan's suggestions after he unceremoniously benched him.
Definitely was a little disturbing. When I talked to Donovan, he said he didn't feel any of those things. And he asked the guy face to face, and that's what he has to say to me, so I think we're all right.
Adam, so much for the spirit of Christmas this week, huh?
Well, no question, Boom. There are a lot of questions in Washington right now about Donovan McNabb and his future. And essentially, Washington has its game plan, and Donovan McNabb has his own. He's planning to ask the Redskins to release him after this season. He wants to be able to be free to choose the team that he finishes his career with. You'll remember last year, Philadelphia traded him to Washington, which was a scenario that he was okay with. But this time, he wants to be able to choose his team. However, the Redskins invested a second and fourth-round draft pick in McNabb. It's highly unlikely they'll release him before first seeing whether or not they can recoup any of the picks that they gave up for McNabb in the first place. So even though McNabb wants out, Washington ultimately will have the final say, Boom.
All right, Adam, thank you. And McNabb, well, I mean, slated to be third today, right? I mean, third-string quarterback behind Rex Grossman. And John Beck was the #2 pick in Jacksonville, where there's snow flurries, by the way, in Jacksonville, okay? Who do we learn more about this week? Shanahan, McNabb?
First of all, that's fine and dandy what Adam is saying, but I'm not helping you get nothing back. I want out, period. So that's it. I mean, in terms of what you're saying, Boom, you know, I look at Shanahan, okay, #1. Yeah, Donovan McNabb has played, you know, not great, bad at times, and helped them win some games at times. But when you look at things with the Shanahans, and I like to say the Shanahans, both the father and the son have been awful this year. And I go back to Tommy. Tommy shares a lot of things with me in his days of being around the Denver Broncos. And he knows Mike Shanahan, you know, a little bit. Now I know who he is. Just based on everything, that the way they're handling this situation with Donovan McNabb is ridiculous. It just, when will it stop? Enough is enough. You invested some picks into this kid. It didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. Now just part ways. Let it go.
The key is that they brought him in. This has been a debacle for a guy that you thought perfectly fit your system.
Traded for him.
Traded for him. I think we have to go back to the premise of he's not smart enough to pick up our offense. He's not in shape enough to run our offense. He is benched for Rex Grossman at the end of a game. He's now been made third team. When you look at a guy who has the resume of Donovan McNabb and who has been as consistently down the line a good guy for an organization as McNabb has been for Philadelphia and now Washington, I find it shocking the treatment that he has received from this coaching staff. And again, I have to remind myself, they brought him to Washington. And, Key, they are not going to let him go so he can finish his career wherever he wants. They're going to get what they can for him and send him where they choose.
Well, look, here,
that's going to happen.
That could potentially happen, but at the same time, Donovan could tell them too, I don't want to go to that team. So it's not cut and dry like people think. I've been in this situation before where a team didn't want me, and I controlled my destiny to the team that I wanted to go to, believe it or not.
Well, you guys said the Shanahans. I call it the shenanigans. That's what's going on over there. There's a lot of messing around going on. You're messing with people. You got to, you know, I learned one thing. Listen, when you become an executive or the CEO or a head coach of a football team, the buck stops there. And when it goes good, you're going to get a lot of credit. But when it goes bad, you've got to take the responsibility. You cannot put people under the bus. And basically, I'm sorry to say this, he was rolled under the bus, period. Donovan McNabb was made a scapegoat for something that was not his fault. This football team underachieved all year long. They're not good on defense. They don't run the football effectively anymore. So what are you going to do? It doesn't matter. Don't tell me about how exotic your offense is. Offense is get the ball from point A to point B.
Offense has been the same since you played.
I agree.
ain't nothing new. CC, I've never seen an assistant coach be in the media as much as Kyle Shanahan in my life.
I mean, all you guys make a good point, but I'm going to flip it around a little bit because I think Donovan McNabb and his agent, Fletcher Smith, they made a bad decision in signing that contract extension, that fake contract extension.
$78 million, 40 guaranteed.
Because that really, I mean, that makes it worse. Now, if they had decided McNabb plays bad, they decide to bench him. We don't have the contract extension. It's a normal NFL situation, all right? And then I don't think that they would get the backlash. But that old hocus-pocus contract thing, that was a bad deal.
But look, CC, you know and I know that Donovan probably went in the agent and they talked to them and they felt good. They felt, okay, we can get through the season with this right here. But now look at the situation. So that just tells me you cannot trust them under no circumstances, and it's going to hurt them whenever free agency comes again. You best to believe.
Smells, huh? Like you like to say,
The
Coach?
buck stops here. Remember that.
You know, and Washington, they had that miracle win to start the year with Dallas. They beat Green Bay. Rodgers was concussed. They beat Philly, the injury. I mean, they had something. It wasn't like it was 0-8 out of the chutes, but this one smelled all year long. It's too bad. McNabb, pretty classy player. More